in her testimony, she's like, one of the ways that I know that the church is true is that I just don't have a care in the world. Like I just am like so happy all the time. I'm so carefree. And I was like, are you fucking for real?
Welcome to Please Bless This Podcast, the podcast where two sisters talk about all things Mormon and pop culture, and sometimes
Steak dances.
Ooh, we're going to talk about steak dances. We're going to talk about steak dances. I want to talk about EFY and having a boyfriend at EFY.
Oh my gosh.
But mostly we want to talk about the show Swiping America on HBO. On Max.
On Max. Yes, please show it the respect it deserves. I'm Elisa.
I'm Katie.
Let's give a little context for how we even came to this episode. So a friend of mine said we should talk about Swiping America on the podcast because there's an ex-Mormon on it. So we went into it with just that information. I didn't know anything about the show. I didn't know who the ex-Mormon was. We were just like, we're doing it. It's clear within about 45 seconds who the ex-Mormon is on Swiping America. Before she says anything about her Mormon upbringing, I was like, there she is.
Yeah, there's Blondie.
She something about the accent, something about the look, the vibe. It was just immediately apparent. There's also the fact that she is white.
Yeah.
And the other leads of the show weren't. And that's, a kind of dead giveaway for a Mormon. Yeah. But there was more to it than that, too. Just her kind of whole aura gave this woman knows she could recite the first vision.
Yes, absolutely.
Oh my gosh, can we recite the first vision? I saw a pillar of light exactly over my head above the brightness of the sun, which descended gradually until it fell upon me. Or set upon me, I can't remember which. When the light rested upon me, I saw two personages whose brightness and glory defy all description, standing above me in the air. One of them spake unto me, calling me by name, and said, pointing to the other, "This is my beloved son. Hear him." Take that.
Boom.
Take that, Russell M. Nelson. Anyway.
So yeah, Reagan's familiar.
Reagan's
also
familiar.
Her name's Reagan.
Yes, another sort of dead giveaway. I will say, though, I had a kind of snap judgment of her based on me more than her and my experiences, for sure. But also based on, I feel like having a Mormon character on a reality TV show is very much a thing. And there are like some real common
archetypes,
yes. And the sort of like pretty blonde led me to think this is another sort of typical Mormon reality TV character. She's gonna be like kind of the worst.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, you almost expect her to be a villain.
Yeah. Like, I'm trying to think of good examples. I'm thinking of, there was a Mormon woman on Project Runway one season who was kind of a villain in that she was pretty oblivious, like insensitive, real flighty, and like just not the most likable, or like on The Real World, there was a Mormon who was like, she just didn't have basic street smarts. She was like a hazard. So I was kind of expecting that.
Right.
And
that's not what we got.
Not what we got at all. Like, no. I'm obsessed with Reagan from
Me
Swiping
too.
America.
Genuinely. And I say this like from the depths of my spirit. She is my Barbie.
Yes, she is my Barbie. She is an ex-Mormon Margot Robbie. 100%. She is an ex-Mormon superhero. I am ready to just like hand the podcast over to her and be like, tell us everything.
I would love to have her on. You know what?
Not even as a guest. I'm ready to just like put her in charge.
Yeah, you can have it. Yeah. You know what? I'm going to take it a step further than Barbie. She's my adult, grown-up Lizzie McGuire.
Oh, wow.
Don't you kind of see what I'm saying?
I totally see what you're saying.
She's just like way cooler.
Yeah. More depth than Lizzie.
But just
who
that
Lizzie
like
dreamed of being.
effervescent. She's like a McDonald's Sprite. She's so spicy.
Yes, she really is. And like she is like really beautiful, undeniably, like a total knockout of a person.
Yeah.
But she's so like funny and witty and like weird.
She's so weird.
So weird. Like I loved how weird she was.
Yeah.
She was just constantly saying that she asked one of the guys on the show to arm wrestle with her at one point.
Yeah, it was
he did not get it. He was just like, what?
And it was so frustrating. We can explain the premise of the show,
yes,
but
please.
An important element was that they kept putting her on dates with these just absolute duds of men. And like any man is going to be a dud sitting next to her, but like, wow, it was dud after dud.
They could not find anyone on her level.
No, these men had never been around a woman of this magnitude.
No. But the other thing too is she has this really intense like personal backstory. She has a daughter who was born with this really rare condition. I think she said like 50 people in the world have it. It requires that her daughter live like on a ventilator, and she has like round the clock care. She's never lived at home with her mother.
Yeah.
So her daughter has this like very unique experience, and Reagan too has a very unique experience with like motherhood and family. And just the way she talks about it is like so beautiful. She's always like, I really want people to understand like how strong and how powerful and how amazing my daughter is. Like I don't want them to think about her as like fragile.
Yeah.
I don't know. I just found it like really moving and inspiring. Yeah.
Yeah, she's the best.
She's the best. So the basic premise of Swiping America, let's set it up. There are 4 leads. There's Reagan, our queen, Chris, who is a gay man, Ash, who's a gay woman, and Kaysun, who is another straight woman. And Reagan is, well, I don't know who's straight or bi or whatever. They don't like totally define themselves. So there's 4 leads. They're all New Yorkers who are frustrated with dating in New York City. And so the show is like taking them around to different cities across the country, and they're going to go on dates. And it's called Swiping America because supposedly the producers are swiping for the leads and setting them up on these dates. I do not believe that any of these people were found through swiping.
No.
I'm just going to say that.
They were cast.
And, that's fine.
But not very well.
Unfortunately, I feel like the dates mostly were duds. And not just for Reagan, kind of for everybody.
Yeah.
There were like a handful of fun folks who made it through the casting process and showed up. But by and large, the dates were whatever. Really, what the show ended up being about was about like all of the leads kind of having personal experiences and learning things about themselves and like loving themselves better and also becoming friends with each other. And it was really more about that. And that was fun and enjoyable. And overall, I really enjoyed the show. But the swiping and the love, like rom-com part of it. Yeah. What did they call it? They called it a rom doc.
A rom doc. Yeah. And like, I feel like it was just a little bit of an incomplete concept. Like it could have been a little bit better. The casting wasn't very good. Honestly, among the leads, a little bit. Like the leads were a little bit kind of whatever in some cases.
Just too reserved.
Yeah, like we're trying to do something here. Like let's have a little bit of zazz. And then definitely among the dates, but the direction of the show was really good. It was like really cinematic and beautiful. Like beautifully shot, and there was like real music in it, which is so rare for a dating show. I feel like dating shows and like reality shows in general have just like really weird like AI pop music.
Yes.
But this had like actual pop music.
I know. It's like music where it shows like a shot of them getting out of a car, and the song is like, we get out the car and then we walk down the street. No, it was way like a cut above like Love is Blind or The
Totally.
Bachelor or those other kind of dating shows, for sure. But
Yeah.
those shows have people who are like shameless and willing to like
Yeah.
just slappy make out on camera and be stupid and say
Yeah.
like cringy stuff.
Yeah.
These leads were a lot more self-contained, reserved, and good for them, but that isn't like the most fun to watch.
No, it doesn't make for the best TV. Like you do kind of need people who are like trying to get famous.
And like willing to go there.
Yeah.
So, you know, not perfection in the casting, but Reagan is a revelation.
Yeah.
And if that's
absolutely.
all you get from the show, it's worth watching every minute.
Can I describe her a little bit?
Yeah, please.
I've already said Barbie, think Lizzie McGuire, but in her late 30s. She's this like gorgeous blonde bombshell little dog.
She has a little dog, Mosey,
vibe.
who comes
Mosey.
with them on every trip.
And you know what? I hate that personally. I find that to be offensive, but I didn't care because she made it work. Like she is that powerful of a presence that I was like willing to overlook the little dog being everywhere, like in a restaurant. I think that that's just not right. But Reagan made it work.
Can I say one thing about like my sort of knee-jerk reaction to be like, I'm probably not going to like her when I first
of course
saw her and realized she was the ex-Mormon? What it just made me think about growing up Mormon and the kind of young woman that was really rewarded was someone who was beautiful and also someone who was who performed like positivity and carefreeness in a way that always made me feel like, is this for real? Like, it makes you feel crazy? Yeah. Like, I remember, this is like a very specific, vivid memory I have. I remember being at girls' camp and it was testimony night. So after you've like been out in the woods together for a few days, you get together and testify about how you believe in the church and everybody cries.
Yeah.
And this girl from our state got up and she was one of those girls. She was very beautiful, came from a family that had a lot of money. She was like the girl, you know? And she said, like, in her testimony, she's like, one of the ways that I know that the church is true is that I just don't have a care in the world. Like, I just am like so happy all the time. I'm so carefree. And I was like, are you fucking for real?
Oh my God.
It was like so staggering to me. Even as a young kid, I was probably like 13. I was just like, what is this?
Give me a break.
This is some bullshit. Like, and not that my life was so hard or whatever, but like, what? What are we selling here?
Yeah.
And that is just like something that came to me in those early moments of seeing Reagan. I was like, oh, she's one of those people who's going to be like, life is like bubblegum and rainbows, and I just love it. And she was not that at all.
No.
But it was sort of fascinating to like remember that feeling of like, oh, is this how we have to be?
Yeah, that was always really kind of upsetting. I definitely had a lot of characters growing up who I always felt like, oh, so this is who mom and dad want me to be like.
I don't want to come across as someone who like snap judges people like, oh, if you're beautiful and happy, I assume you're a dipshit or a fake. That's not true. But I did learn early on to be a little wary of like the extreme outward presence of I've got everything together and I am, especially within the context of Mormonism, I am doing it all.
Mm-hmm.
And I get it. And I'm so happy about it.
Mm-hmm.
I was
Major
just,
red flag.
yes. And it just, this seeing Reagan just brought me right back to that. And then like realizing, no, that's not who she is, was so refreshing and like good for me to have that experience
Yeah.
and be like, get over yourself. I feel like there's not a ton to say about the show beyond like, I loved it because of Reagan. Like, she was the one
Yeah.
saying the funny things. She was the one like being a character. I will say I cried in the finale.
I love that. That's so
And
sweet.
it was because it was when Chris he said, the more I've opened up, the more love I've received. And he was talking about like mostly opening up to the other leads on the show and how they all became such good friends. And I was like, this is beautiful. Good for them. I love
Yeah.
that they just came to love each other. Like, it's a heartwarming little show.
It is. Yeah. It's definitely worth watching, but it's also like not super exceptional. Like, we don't have to super go into it because
Yeah.
it's just a dating show.
But
you know,
what it is a perfect springboard for, besides worshiping Reagan, which we're going to do forever, and we'll probably talk about her for like every single episode from now on.
Yeah.
It's a perfect springboard to talk about Mormon dating.
Yeah, because that's a whole thing.
It sure is.
I had not thought about this subject in like 15 years.
Yep. I believe that.
I was like looking at the outline today. And I was just like, oh, because you guys should know. I'm gonna tell you guys how this podcast works, okay? Really quick. So Elisa does all the work, and she is the brains, and she does the outline, and she does all the thinking, like the thinking. And then I 30 minutes before we record, review everything that she's collected and sit down and let her tell me about it. And then I edit it. I am the editing one.
I'm laughing so hard that I just knocked my microphone over. FYI.
So I just want that to be out in the open. We're pretty cool with the way that it works.
I feel like it's pretty balanced, honestly.
I mean, yeah, totally. But anyway, so yeah, I sat down 30 minutes ago and was looking at the outline that Elisa painstakingly put together. Just kidding, it's a really short outline. But I was like, holy shit, Mormon dating.
Yeah.
Whoa. That was a whole thing. Like, so number one, the main thing with Mormon dating is that you can't do it until you're 16.
The main thing with Mormon dating is it's nothing. It's like it's a lack of dating is what Mormon dating is. Yeah.
It's a lack of dating until you get married.
Yes.
Right?
Basically. I mean, yeah, the rule is 16, and that's not just like our parents said don't date till you're 16. It's like there is a literal handbook for Mormon teenagers called the For the Strength of Youth pamphlet. And it says don't date till you're 16.
Right.
Not in those exact words, but that specific number. And I'm pretty sure you didn't abide by that.
Oh, sure didn't.
But it's a scandal. It's being whispered about in the hallways. Everybody's concerned.
Yeah, when I was dating before I turned 16, it wasn't like common knowledge.
Right.
Like, I kept it under wraps.
Yeah.
But yeah.
By necessity.
By necessity. But also, it's so funny. It's one of those funny things where when these like high demand religions like put an age on things or like put really strict rules, like the way that my brain works, and I think a lot of people are like this, are like, oh, I'm gonna hyperfixate on this. Like this is
I'm gonna become obsessed with dating, sex, like all of that.
Right.
Because I'm being told it is so freaking important.
Yeah.
That we're going to give you a whole pamphlet about it.
Right. Yeah.
Not only were Mormon teenagers and are currently told to wait till they're 16, you were then told to only date in groups at that point, to save like exclusive dating for when you were getting married, which Mormon kids are getting married at like 18, 19. So basically you go from like, I'm going on some group dates at 16 to 17 to I'm getting married.
Right.
At
And they
18,
also
19.
said, it doesn't say this anymore, but back in our day, they talked about not exclusive dating. You shouldn't exclusively date anyone. You should date around, meet lots of people. And I know that was definitely always really pushed on me. And I think partially because I was such a boyfriend girl. I like always wanted to have a boyfriend. And so our parents were like, why don't you not?
Yeah. And they would encourage you to like hang out with other guys.
Yeah.
In between hanging out with your actual boyfriend who you are now married to.
Yeah.
I mean, they did the same thing with our brother too. They would be like, you can go on another date with this girl as long as you go on a date with that girl in between.
Yeah.
It was this real orchestrated situation.
Yeah, it's funny to look back at that because obviously our parents like totally love my husband and there's no whatever.
Yeah.
We've been together for like 16 years. It's not even a subject anymore. But when I was 16, they like literally had another teenage boy's photo on our fridge who was like the guy they really wanted me to be dating, who was Mormon.
James Prow, shout out if you're listening.
Yeah, I'll leave it in.
Do you love that I know exactly talking about full name? Yeah. I'm like, yeah.
100%.
I didn't even live at home at that point, and I knew James Prow was
the one that got away,
side piece.
Yeah. Because he was Mormon and he was great. Yeah. Please bless.
Delightful.
Please bless him.
And I was a prude and a dork, and there weren't people beating down the door trying to date me. So I had no problem not dating as a teenager, but I was still hyper fixated on it.
Right.
That its absence was this kind of preoccupation that I had. And then I went off to BYU and had my first dating experiences, and that was a trip and a half. But let's not go all the way to that yet. Okay. Let's stay on like teenagers for a minute, because there are some real vestiges of Mormon teenage dating culture that we have to talk about. I mean, the For the Strength of Youth pamphlet, I just want to say, we're not going to like dive super deep into it, but there have been a few versions of it over the years. I grew up with, there was like a 1990 version that I grew up with that has some extremely weird, specific, strange stuff about like what you should wear and how you do your hair, and really effed up stuff about homosexuality. And then there was a 2001 version, which was like your version, that was also super effed up and weird. Yeah. And there was just a lot of explicit rules. But there's a new version that's a couple of years old online that is so lightweight compared to what we were given.
They might as well just throw it away.
Right?
Like, let's just get rid of it.
I was like clicking through it trying to find like, is the age requirement still in here? And it is, but it's hard to find. It's like, it's not categorized in a way that makes much sense. It's categorized around like vague statements about faith and Jesus. It's so weird. And it's like very much another example of the way the church is like kind of watering things down to be more palatable. And it gives, I don't know, you just see all of these like Mormon apologists on TikTok when ex-Mormons are like, oh, I grew up like really troubled by these explicit rules within the church and the like inherent misogyny in them, for example. And some like current Mormon will be like, those aren't real rules. You're just making that up. That's not even true. And it's like, yes, they were real rules.
Yeah.
And just because now it's all loosey-goosey doesn't mean that this wasn't really going on and being said over the pulpit. So we grew up under a strict dating regime is what I'm trying to say.
Yeah, all we did, in terms of like fraternizing was church dances.
And I said stake dances earlier. A stake, if you don't know, Mormon congregations are wards, and a group of wards make up a stake. So like the city you live in might have a stake with several wards in it. So all the kids in your stake would get together and dance on a Saturday night. To even go to the stake dance, you had to have a one-on-one interview with your bishop where he asked you about like your worthiness and your faith in the church. And you got a card saying you were like worthy to go. And if you wanted to bring a friend, you had to have them go through some process. I can't remember exactly.
I don't know either.
They couldn't just come in.
No, you couldn't just bring somebody.
And there were like bouncers at the door, like men, somebody's dad in a suit checking your card. And if he didn't like your outfit, if it was too tight or too revealing, you got sent home to change. I mean,
yeah, heavily chaperoned.
Yes.
Events.
Anyway,
these were.
I just couldn't leave that out. But we're in the gym. Set the scene.
You know what? I'm gonna dial it back a little bit. Okay. It's a cold night in October.
In the Pacific Northwest.
In the Pacific
it's drizzling
Northwest.
outside.
And it's dark.
Yeah.
And you're getting picked up by your friend's older brother who's driving you begrudgingly to the dance, where he's just gonna go meet up with his girlfriend and they're gonna take off and go to McDonald's and make out 100%. And they're gonna get in trouble for it. And you might get in trouble for it somehow too. And you're freaking out.
Go on.
So you're going in, you're at a 10. You're like, I'm already in trouble. You go in, you're in the church gym, wood floors, basketball. There's a stage. It's dark. There are some multicolored lights going on. It's giving very much weird dance. And there's a
middle-aged man is DJing.
Yes, he's middle-aged.
Yeah.
He's somebody's dad. And he is playing all the hits. Sandstorm by Darude. Bohemian Rhapsody.
Lady
Chicago's Greatest Hits, Lady in Red. It's incredibly high energy. All the most what's the nicest way to put this? Hyperactive type Mormon 17-year-old boys are absolutely bouncing off the walls, losing their minds, and just dancing together. It's just men, like young men dancing together. It's a little bit ritualistic. It's a little bit scary. And then they put on some like real steamy ballads. And people are getting close. But not too close. But it's emotional. People are falling in love.
People are falling in love, but also people are standing on the sidelines, shaking in their freaking boots. When the first chords of Lady in Red start, here's what you do. All the girls move to the edges of the dance floor in packs. You know, you find your friends. You're like, here we go. What's going to happen? And the boys take in the options. And the ones with the guts to do so approach and say, do you want to dance? If you get asked to dance, it is electric.
To say the least.
I had a years-long crush on a boy in our stake because he asked me to dance once when I was like 14.
Okay, name drop him. You name dropped my Mormon.
But you were actually
boyfriend.
Friends with him. This was like someone I didn't even know. We like never spoke again.
First name.
But we danced to Lady in Red or something like it. The summer before 9th grade, and I was like, this is it. This is my future husband.
Yeah.
If you don't get asked to dance, it is devastating. And if you do get asked to dance by a boy who you're like, I hate that kid, you know,
also devastating.
You are not allowed to say no. You're literally coached by your church leaders that you are not allowed to say no.
No, that wouldn't be right.
Because he had the guts to ask you, and it's your responsibility to engage.
Yeah. And if he's the only one who asked you to dance, then
you should just
probably says something about you. You should just go for it. Yeah.
And honestly, if he asks you on a date, you have to say yes.
Yeah.
There's no choice there. The boy's name was Mike Lau. He does not know who I am. I can't believe I remember his full name because we had no relationship beyond he asked me to dance once and I was like, I've got a crush on you. Anyway,
church dances. Another thing I wanted to talk about, taking it a step further, was EFY, especially for youth. Now they just have a for the strength of youth kind of conference.
But it's the same thing.
Yeah, it's the same thing. So
EFY is like a week-long summer camp.
Right. It's a week-long summer camp. I, growing up in Seattle, would go to BYU. I'd go to Provo to go to EFY every year. Yeah. I did it. So I don't even know, 3 years or something like that.
I did that too.
It's a big fucking deal. Okay. Yeah. You go and you sleep in the dorms like an adult. Mm-hmm. Except you are like heavily policed and not allowed to leave. And if you leave, you get kicked out.
Yes.
And you have to get escorted around by a boy. Mm-hmm. From your quote unquote family. You get placed in families based on like where you're sleeping, basically, and whatever. So naturally, you have to have a boyfriend at EFY. Yes. I always did. Yeah. And it was like, oh, this is my new boyfriend. And then you never talk to them again.
Mm-hmm. Do you remember any of your EFY boyfriends' names?
I remember them, but I don't remember their names.
I remember like going to BYU, and my freshman year, there were people who were like dating their EFY boyfriends. They were like, we met at EFY when we were 16 and we've been long distance dating ever since, and now here we are. Like, it was a thing. Like, these,
that is like really weird,
scorching hot, like long distance, super chaste Mormon relationships. Ooh.
Yikes.
And you'd hold hands and you were like freaking out.
Yeah, like I genuinely think I wish my memory was better. I don't know what was going on with me during that time in my life, but my memories are a little bit blurry. I don't know if there's just a lot I'm trying to block out. Perhaps. But yeah, like if I'm thinking real hard about it, like I was definitely like holding these guys' hands and like really leading them on. And then I left and was like, I'm never talking to that person again.
Were you doing this while you were dating Luke, your current husband?
No, not my current husband, but I was while I was dating my ex-boyfriend. I was like, oh, yeah, I'm going to break up with my boyfriend and be with my EFY boyfriend.
Another important element of EFY, though, was that there were so many dances.
Yes,
so
exactly.
The stake dance model on a much larger scale. You'd go to like the student center at BYU and there'd be hundreds of kids dancing somehow to the exact same playlist as your local stake center. Mm-hmm. And the same moves, like the slow dances start, you await one of your EFY brothers coming up and asking you to dance. And if your EFY counselors were on top of their game, they told the boys, like, you all have to ask the girls to dance every slow dance, so no girl is left behind.
Yes.
It was this very strategic, calculated, like misogynistic little dance we were all doing with each other. It also like created this weird sense of competition among the girls.
Yeah.
Like you couldn't just be like having a good time with your girlfriends at the dance because if you were too chummy with them, no boy would approach you. It was like too much, too intimidating.
Yeah.
So you had to separate yourself. I will also say there were dances at BYU too, and they had the exact same vibe. It was an EFY dance for adults. I went to dances as a Mormon into adulthood. I'm embarrassed to admit. And I stopped much earlier than they stopped offering them. Let me be clear.
Because, the singles ward is going to have dances, and that's up till you're 30, right?
The young single adult ward, but also the single adult ward. So like the post 31 single Mormons were having dances and essentially like youth conference for adults. I was single and still Mormon post 31 years of age when you get kicked out of the like singles ward scene and you have to go into a regular family ward, but everybody knows like you're single, you're a weirdo, you're an outcast, you don't belong. And then they create these like little excursions to get all the single people together who are over 31 and try to get them to marry each other. And it's exactly the same vibe as like an EFY or a stake dance. Exactly the same. Not that I went to them. I just, knew what they were and was like, no, I'm not doing that. Anyway, Mormon dating. So yeah, Mormon teenage dating. What a world.
Oof.
Mormon adult dating. I don't even know what to say. Where to even begin. I mean, but basically a hot mess, not normal, not healthy, not good. It's a race to getting married. And if you don't make the cut, if you're a woman who reaches 21 unmarried, it's a problem for you and for your family, for everyone who knows you. It's like, oh no, what are we going to do? Because the pickings are getting slimmer. You have to marry a like worthy Mormon boy, and they all are getting hitched as fast as they can so that they can have sex. So like they are running out. Let me think about how to say this. I mean, I was an active believing member of the Mormon church throughout my 20s and into my 30s. And my dating experiences were abysmal, completely ridiculous, completely outrageously terrible. 99% of the Mormon men I knew thought they were too good for me. Like they wouldn't even consider me as a potential option for, all sorts of reasons that I can't get into their heads, but I wasn't like classically beautiful in the way that was expected of me. I wasn't thin in the way that was expected of me. I wasn't sweet in the way that was expected of me. It was just not even. And it was like a real eye-opening experience to choose to expand my dating pool beyond Mormons.
Yeah.
And to be like, oh, people want to date me.
Yeah.
I literally didn't know because the church trained me to think that they didn't. And because they didn't. I mean, the church trained these women not to want to. I was like, too everything, too much.
Which is crazy.
I mean, look, people have all sorts of experiences. People, whatever. I'm not trying to come off as anything here. It's ridiculous. Like I was a catch all along.
Yeah.
I was a catch all along. And I know that now. But I definitely did not know that then. And I was not led to believe that then by the boys and the men that I was encountering. And they were definitely being given, whether like directly or indirectly, consciously or subconsciously, this idea that they were the fucking shit. And that they like would never lower themselves to even be nice to, let alone date, let alone love, let alone whatever, someone who didn't fit a very specific physical mold, physical more than anything, honestly, / personality mold.
It's just one of like many ways that men in the church are made to feel like real powerful.
If my wife is hot, it's because God loves me and I'm like worthy and I have the power of God. I'm a priesthood holder, like I can't be settling.
And like settling,
right? Like, because that's ridiculous. I was not someone who someone would have been settling with. No. But because of like the value system that we were all operating under, that was the way I was treated. Yeah. Not just the way I like felt, it was the way I was literally treated. As I have said so many times in this podcast, the adults in my life should have seen it for what it was. But because they too were so deeply entrenched, I had like no advocates who were like, no, you're great. Like, you're not, you are wonderful. You are worthy of love. You're like, whatever. I had people who were like, well, maybe you should. Have you ever thought about, well, can't you kind of understand why? And not just that there were most men didn't want to date me in the church, but that the ones who did weren't very nice to me.
Right.
Didn't treat me very well.
Yeah. Then it was like, well,
what can you do?
Is it so bad?
Right.
You know?
But like, can't you make it work?
And also, like, go ahead and make a list of all your favorite, or like of all the traits that you need in a husband, and don't settle on any of those. You make a list, and those are the traits you're looking for in a husband. But also, men will be nicer to you if they want to fuck you.
Yep. And that's their right. And that's a very reasonable way for them to behave.
And that's just the way it goes.
Yeah. I just have to say, Reagan is magnificent. She has panache. She's a goddess, an icon. The show could not find one man on her level. Not one. And it was discouraging to watch, though she didn't seem to be discouraged. She seemed like she was having a lot of like great reflective moments about herself, and that's wonderful. I'm glad she had a good experience. But as a viewer, I was like, can you literally not find one man in this country who is like funny and cool and zany and hot in the way that she is?
Yeah.
And it just sort of like reinforced my experiences like with dating as a Mormon. It was like, where are they? Like, and how do they not see what they have? Like, that was the most shocking, is she would show up on these dates looking like a smoke show, saying the most outlandish, funny little things. And the guys were just like crickets. Like, didn't know what to do with her.
Right. And these guys were like 5s. Okay.
And she's it wasn't 15.
And it wasn't like just that they didn't know what to, I don't know what to do with her. She's so out of my league. Like, no, it's like they didn't get it, you know? I wasn't seeing the like if I was put in front of Reagan, excuse me, the like level of personality mirroring I would be doing.
Oh my gosh, I know, right?
I would be turned up.
Just copying every gesture, every phrase. Ooh, ooh, ooh.
I'd be different after that encounter.
I forever changed.
Yeah.
So basically, I hope that people can step it up and someone can like aspire to be at her level, because I know,
seriously. Maybe there's some like wonderful ex-Mormon man with like an incredible personality and a sick bod who's listening right now. Look her up.
DM her.
Please.
Yeah. But more likely, because of everything we talked about, the man for her is not a Mormon or even an ex-Mormon, because that shit runs deep. That thinking that you like are too cool for school, man. And just the like benevolent misogyny of all of it. Like, oh, I'm gonna like deign to give this woman attention because I'm so great. Man, let's just do better, everybody. Do better.
Amen.
Let that stuff go. Well, I feel like this went in so many directions we did not anticipate, and also feel like we are just scratching the surface. Yeah, so if there are more things you want us to talk about related to Mormon dating, hit us up. Send us an email, pleaseblesspod@gmail.com. Message us on Instagram or TikTok or Twitter or Threads, I guess, at pleaseblesspod. Comment on our YouTube. Rate and review the podcast. Write a review on Apple Podcasts and tell us what you want to hear. I mean, there are all these ways to get in touch with us, so please do.
And follow Reagan Baker.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
Yeah.
I actually saw on her Instagram stories the other day, she did like an Ask Me Anything. And I can't even remember what the question was, but she was just like listing her areas of expertise. She's like, I can help you get a like perfect, like a bedheady, beachy sort of look to your hair, because she's a hairstylist. And I can do this. I can do this. And she's like, I can help you leave Mormonism. And I was like, yeah.
Yes.
A Renaissance woman.
Yes. God bless.
God bless. Please bless Reagan Baker. Please bless this podcast. And, please bless all of you.
Amen.